Mathews and I make complex animal puppets and sculptures here in my studio in Nottingham. I think people connect with my work because I think a lot of us have looked at a pigeon flying and wondering, how does that work? So my work sort of demystifies that. I'm learning about it by creating it, and I think that journey appeals to people, that they can kind of come along and learn and understand at the same time. So I started my Instagram in 2014 with just a few followers from my Facebook social media presence, and I've just reached 31,000 followers on Instagram, which is amazing. I never thought I'd have that many people interested in my work and wanting to know about this process that I go through. So I just have a few tips of things that I've learned along the way and things that I wish I'd known when I started it, and hopefully it will help people out who are looking to grow their Instagram following as well. My first tip is to let your audience grow naturally, and it can feel really slow, and mine certainly was slow in the beginning, and you might think that having less than 100, less than 1,000 followers might make people think that you're not professional or not take you seriously. But whatever you do, do not be tempted by those 10,000 followers overnight email scams that you'll get, because it can be completely counterproductive. Those 10,000 followers for that small fee will be almost entirely made up of robots, and those bots don't interact with your work in the same way. So for example, if you have 10-15,000 followers and only 3 or 4 likes, comments on a post, then the Instagram algorithm will understand that that's mostly bots, and it will demote your content. You won't appear in the explore pages. It's just a complete waste of time and makes it less likely for you to get actual real engaged followers. Early on I was tempted by a couple of those marketing Instagram plans and had conversations with people about it, but on further investigation it just wasn't worth it. The best way that you're going to get found is to use 4 or 5 appropriate, relevant hashtags. Don't go looking for ones that are trending. Think of ones that are more unique to your work and more specific. And don't go begging on other people's posts for followers. You might see the occasional person saying, oh, come and check out my page, and I just feel like that's a bit rude, it's a bit intrusive. That post is about that person's work. If you're then talking about yours, it feels like you're sort of hijacking it, and it comes across as desperate. So I wouldn't suggest doing that at all if you were considering it. Fewer followers might even be a good thing. Someone might feel that they found a hidden gem if you've only got a few people who already know about you. Just try not to worry about it, let that come naturally. Generate this engaged, interested audience of people who are actually connecting with your work. Which leads on nicely to my second point, which is to interact with your followers. Reply to comments, reply to messages. It's nice that someone has spent time to actually write something. I mean, it's so easy just to like something, but if someone's taken the time to actually write out a comment, acknowledge that. It's nice, it's friendly, and cultivates a nicer relationship with that follower than if you just ignored it. Be polite, stay professional. I use smileys sparingly. I do use them, but I try and only use them in the comments, not in any of the titles. I think Instagram has the potential to be quite one-sided. By interacting with people, you're creating more of a conversation, which just feels a lot more natural. When it comes to negative comments, which I've had a few, I've found that if I just step back and don't say anything, then other people will jump on that comment and then say all the things that I don't want to have to, which is really nice. It feels like they've got your back, which is lovely, and also stops me from getting into an argument on my page. And although thinking about it in this way feels a bit fake and a bit sort of gross, the way the Instagram algorithm works is the more you engage your followers and keep them on your page, the higher your content will be promoted. Instagram makes money by keeping people on the app, and so it rewards you if you can keep people on the app longer. So although that feels a little bit horrible, it's worth remembering that it is benefiting you in multiple ways. Even if you're not feeling very communicative, just a simple thank you smiley face goes a long way. Also, comment on other people's work on other people's pages, and don't be afraid to say specifically what you like about something. I think being a creative person can be quite an isolating experience if you're working long hours in the studio, and so by creating these sort of bonds and relationships with other artists in a similar position. I find it really rewarding. There are artists that I've followed for a number of years that follow me back, and it's always great to see them creating new work, and they support me, I support them, and it's it's great. It sort of strengthens your confidence in yourself, and it gives a sort of sense of artistic community. Number 3 is to work to make your posts beautiful, not with elaborate butterfly filters or anything, but with good lighting, in focused, not a cluttered background. Read up on photography of how to make beautiful images. There's loads of online guidance tutorials, and it's really worth just learning a bit more about it. You don't need a fancy camera. Phone cameras are great to begin with. I try to use a fairly consistent colour palette. I have a slate piece that I photograph a lot of my work on, and therefore try and use quite cool greys and blues to keep a consistent look on my feed. And I'll use stories for rougher things, for more day-to-day progress, but try and it's something I'm still working on, but I try to keep my feed looking quite slick and good. I think we are all on Instagram for those little dopamine hits from a visually pleasing image, so really work to cultivate that. That's what is going to take you forward. And this one might seem a bit obvious, but if your page is about your work, keep it about your work. You don't need to be putting pets and food and holidays and that sort of thing on your artist page. If you have a personal one, keep that personal, but keep the focus on your work. That's what people are going to be on your page for, that's what they're interested in, and don't lose that focus. Number 4 is consistency. I really try and post at least once or twice a day, even if I don't feel like it, just trying to get something, if it's a throwback or just a quick update. It's just important to keep people reminded and engaged. And also, you never know what's gonna just take off. I had a video that I just wanted to put something up at the end of the day. I hadn't really thought too much about it, and it ended up with 116,000 views, which was amazing, and got a lot more followers and a lot more interest. That sort of engagement is more likely to happen if you are consistently posting. You don't need to overdo it though. The Instagram algorithm promotes content from people who post between 2 and 10 times a day, so somewhere between that, interesting, engaging content that's going to get the most comments and likes. My last tip is be really careful with advertising. As your account grows, you're more than likely to get emails saying, hey, we love your content, we think you'd be a great fit for our brand, offering you so much per post about their wristbands or something. But don't be fooled, they have sent out mass emails to loads of accounts over a certain number. You really don't want to be losing the trust of your followers by hawking someone else's product on it. Saying that though, if it's something really relevant and you feel like your followers would benefit from knowing about it and the company is going to pay you, and if it feels like a good fit, then I would consider it. There's a couple of woodworking companies that I've thought I wouldn't mind promoting their products, but they haven't come asking and I haven't gone hunting for it. So it's not a hard no, but it's not what my page is about. My final thoughts are images, make them beautiful, that's your number 1. Relevant hashtags, just a few. And thirdly, just be friendly, cultivate that relationship with your followers, and good luck. So next I'm going to talk about my experience using Patreon, which I highly recommend. It's completely changed my way of working and I wish I'd done it sooner. If you haven't heard of it, just check out the website for some more in-depth information about how it works, but it's basically a membership platform where fans pay for exclusive content from their favourite artists. On my Patreon I have 3 different tiers. I've got Sparrows, Badgers and Pegasuses. They each get bigger and bigger rewards for monthly payments. Before my Patreon I had a kind of feast-famine schedule for my work, so I'd get a few orders one month and then nothing the next month, which is emotionally draining and financially unstable. Having a regular income that I know approximately what it's going to be means I can plan my finances, I can plan new materials that I need, I can pay my studio rent easily without needing to live on beans for a few weeks. It also means that I don't need to focus solely on work that I know will sell, which means I can be a lot more experimental, take a few more risks, and that makes me a better artist in the long run as well. I no longer need to work elsewhere to afford to live, so that gives me more time on my art exclusively, so that's a massive improvement as well. It's been a massive life changer, and I would highly recommend investigating. My first tip for Patreon is just to set it up, stop procrastinating. I spent ages thinking, I haven't got enough content, it's going to be embarrassing, no one's going to join. And I spent about the first week of no one joining thinking, why have I done this? It's just going to be a nightmare. But then the first couple of people join and you just get this huge sense of gratitude and overwhelming appreciation that people have seen and are interested in you and your work enough to pay a monthly fee to get more information about it. It does become a really big confidence boost and it drives you to do more. So a year later on from starting it, I now have a really good back catalogue of good content for people, so new members have plenty to look back on, and members that have been with me right from the beginning are part of that journey, and it's a wonderful relationship. And it is really nice to be able to share more about the workings and goings on with people who are truly invested in your work. It's a great rewarding feeling. My second tip is to be really aware of the workload that you're doing for Patreon. I love thinking up new things for my members. It really does push me to be more inventive and more creative, but it can become quite all-consuming. So I try and work out what I am earning and then work out a kind of day rate of the amount of time I'm going to spend on my Patreon. So £600, for example, is about 2 or 3 days work, so I try and tailor it to that amount of time. It invariably goes over, but I find that that's a good guideline so that I'm not spending weeks and weeks on something. My third tip is to read the rules. It's quite a different way of working and it's really worth just getting familiar with what is and what isn't allowed. I made a mistake early on of advertising a competition that was only for my Patreon members, and that isn't allowed. People can't be persuaded to join for a potential prize. I got an email from Patreon saying, you can't do that, please take that competition down. And I felt terrible about it because I'd had quite a few people join to win this little killer whale that I'd made. So I spent a few months making every single one of my patrons a killer whale. I should have read the rules, but I think overall it was probably a good thing because everyone who joined got a killer whale, and that was quite nice. Number 4 is to promote it. It can feel a little bit awkward asking people to sign up for a direct debit. Some people won't like the idea. I have had people have a go at me saying it was bad to even ask. But the people that do get it are wonderful, and you can generate such a nice relationship with those people who understand and who are invested and interested in your work. I promote my Patreon about once a week on Instagram, whether that's through a story or a post. I have a mailing list that I put that on, and I have a separate page on my website which has details and information and a link to my Patreon as well. I think any more than that, I don't want to become annoying and like I'm just pushing it all the time, but any less than that and people aren't likely to see it. Number 5 is be really aware of postage costs. I offer monthly mail outs for the badges and for the Pegasus tiers. It can get really expensive posting things all around the world. So I try and keep the mail outs flat pack kit or something that can be posted in a letter form. Saying that though, sometimes I'll just have an idea that I know it's going to be expensive to post, but it feels like something that's really rewarding for people. So I'll just take the hit financially on that a bit, and it's just like a bigger thank you every so often. And number 6 and finally is don't be sad if people quit. I've had people who've been a member for months and then quit, and you might never know why. You don't know people's financial circumstances. $50 to someone is a huge amount of money, $50 to another person is nothing at all. It's all in dollars because it's an American company. So try not to get too caught up on it. You can't please everyone all the time. You know, maybe it wasn't a good fit, maybe they didn't like your content, maybe it wasn't quite what they expected, but don't worry about that. Focus on the people that are invested in you and, you know, just keep going, generate value for them. My take-home thoughts for Patreon is do it, start it now, it'll be amazing by the next year. Don't be afraid to promote it. Thirdly, just invest that time in it, you get out what you put in. And thanks for watching!